And welcome to this webinar, an introduction to Rapid Ext JS version 1.0. My name is Marc Gusmano. I'm a sales engineer at Sencha. And over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we will look at what is about to be Sencha's newest product, Rapid Ext JS, or Rapid Ext JS, as you might hear it termed. We will look at what the product is positioned to do and go through a demo and then take some questions and get some answers to those questions. On the subject of questions, if you do have questions while we're going through the webinar, please use the questions panel that's in the GoToWebinar, and at the end of the session, we will go through those questions and get you answers. Also take note of my email address. I'll also have that email address on the last slide. If you have any follow-up questions that we didn't get to, or you think of things after the fact, that is the best way to get a hold of me. So with all that, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned, is the newest product that's about to be released from Sencha, Rapid Ext JS version 1. It is a development tool. It complements our Ext JS product, and it provides a visual drag and drop interface to build the view environment of your Ext JS application, and also has several other features that we'll walk through. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this webinar. As far as the specifics, I'll first further clarify Rapid Ext JS. And for those of you who've used the Sencha Architect product, or if you haven't and you may have heard of it, I will go ahead and compare and contrast the visual Sencha Architect tool to Rapid Ext JS. Then I'll talk about how you acquire and install Rapid Ext JS. At the moment, we're still in the latter parts of the trial period, but very shortly we will be releasing the 1.0 version, and I will give you several locations where you can click into the trial to be able to acquire a version. Then I'll talk about logging into the Rapid Ext JS product to our NPM repository so that you can create new projects with Rapid Ext JS. And then we'll get to the good stuff. We'll actually create a new Ext JS application with Rapid Ext JS. I'll give commentary on the things you can do in the tool. I'm going to do a relatively simple but informative demo application. It'll use a button, it'll use the Ext JS grid, a panel, several text fields. So I think it's reasonably representative of the kind of things you would do in Ext JS while keeping things simple so it's easy to understand. I'll go through a handful of the Rapid Ext JS features and point you to the documentation where you can read further on Rapid Ext JS. And then, as I said, we'll spend a good amount of time in demonstration mode, showing you a pre-built app, going through the creation of an app, talking about the different various ways you can use the visual drag and drop interface. And then finally, leave some time for questions and answers. Okay, so what is Rapid Ext JS? Very specifically, it is a Visual Studio Code extension. So Visual Studio Code is the editor environment that we've built Rapid Ext JS into. It is not to be confused with the Visual Studio Code extension plugin that we already have and is available. The Visual Studio Code plugin is not a visual drag and drop tool. It does allow you to do things like code completion. It has IntelliSense. It has the ability to refactor in some areas, whereas Rapid Ext JS is a tool to visually build your Ext JS applications. And if you're already using that plugin that I mentioned, you can additionally install Rapid Ext JS and use both at the same time for their varying features. As you'll see, there is drag and drop support for dragging EXTJS components onto a visual view palette, then using the user interface to set properties, potentially linking to events. So the entire life cycle of using a component can be done with Rapid Ext JS. We'll take a look at the documentation in a little bit. I just wanted to add the link so that you have ready access to that documentation when you perhaps download these slides. And there also is an intro video that gives you a little bit of context, a little further context to what Rapid Ext JS is. So with that, let's talk about how Rapid Ext JS compares to the existing visual designer tool that we have, Sencha Architect. One of the things about Sencha Architect is that it uses the concept of metadata to keep track of what you do. So when you drag and drop a field or a button on a form or on a view, there is behind the scenes metadata that keeps track of that. What that means is that if you ever leave the Sencha Architect environment and go make changes outside of that environment, the metadata doesn't stay consistent. Hence, when you're using Sencha Architect, you tend to have to keep using it, or if you leave Architect, you tend to leave Architect and then move forward using another tool. The key difference here in Rapid Ext JS is that there is no metadata. There is nothing that is required behind the scenes to control the Rapid Ext JS environment. So you can indeed go into another environment, make some changes, come back to Rapid Ext JS and continue your editing, your visual drag and drop experience. As I mentioned before, the Rapid Ext JS environment is hosted as a VS Code extension, VS Code being a free editor. I think this is a fair statement, one of the most, if not the most popular JavaScript and other environments editor. So we chose that because of its popularity. Under the covers, Rapid Ext JS utilizes an NPM package that we created several years ago called XGen. And XGen, if you're not familiar with it, as I said, it's an NPM package that is accessible with @Sencha/XGen. And it is a tool that complements and enhances our command line tool called Sencha Command to give you NPM capabilities for a Sencha Ext JS application. So you can bring in the Ext JS SDK as NPM packages. You can use additional NPM packages within your Sencha application. It's a tool that works very well and allows you to take advantage of the package environment in the world of NPM. So because of that, and because we wanted to continue to utilize the capabilities of NPM, under the covers, Rapid Ext JS utilizes this XGen NPM package. You don't have to install XGen explicitly. The installation of Rapid Ext JS will install the XGen utility for you. And we will be looking at a version 1.0 product. So it is certainly not as robust as Sencha Architect is, but if you want to think of Rapid Ext JS moving more and more into the functionality of Sencha Architect, I think that would be a fair way to look at it. So as we continue to add functionality, it will be the kinds of things that those of you who are using Sencha Architect are familiar with. But in the version 1.0 release, we'll see that visual drag and drop, editing configs, creating event handlers, all of that is handled within the tool. All right, so how do you acquire the Rapid Ext JS product? Well, at the moment, as I said, if you were to do what I'm going to tell you right here, you would get the trial experience, because we're not officially at the GA, but we will be very soon. But there are several places you can go, certainly once it is GA, to be able to get at the trial version of Rapid Ext JS. And the first place is on the Sencha.com homepage. So if I scroll down to the section where we have this little graphic for all of the products that we have, Rapid Ext JS is now one of the products that's represented. And if you click on this link, as I said, currently it'll give you a trial beta, but eventually you will get at the specific form, which is what's represented on the right side of this slide. You fill out the form, click submit, and then a zip file will be downloaded to your hard drive. That zip file is a zip of a .vsix file, which is the file extension for VS Code extensions. And we will look at that in a moment. You also can get access to the trial by going to the Rapid Ext JS documentation and going to the guide installation and setup. So try Rapid Ext JS beta is what's currently there. Upon general availability, this will bring you to that same form that I was just mentioning, where you can download a version of the extension. You'll also notice in this installation and setup that once you do have that VSIX file, there is instructions here on what you do next. And I will go through a few of those things, but it's pretty simple to install a Visual Studio Code extension into Visual Studio Code, especially if you just have a file, which is the trial approach. Customers who have support portal credentials will be able to download the Rapid Ext JS extension from the support portal. And I believe it will also be on the marketplace, the VS Code extension marketplace, and you can utilize any and all those approaches to get the extension. When you do sign up for a trial, what you will get is a welcome email, and that welcome email will give you a little bit more context, what to do. There's going to be a tutorial that kind of walks through the kind of things I'm going to walk through today. It gives you instructions on what to do with that downloaded file, some prerequisites that you're going to need in terms of Java, Node, and of course Visual Studio Code, and then a little bit of textual instructions on what you do to install the Visual Studio Code extension. So let's start there. Let's just look at what it takes to get Rapid Ext JS installed. This is a screen that is a screenshot of what I'm going to show you in Visual Studio Code, and then down here is a link to the installation guide that I just showed you. But I think the easiest thing to do is just to show you these steps within Visual Studio Code. So what I have on my screen now is a blank Visual Studio Code environment. No project is installed. I do have the extension installed, but I just want to show you the steps that you would go through should you not yet have the extension installed. And it's pretty easy, as I said. On the left-hand side here in this little menu bar, there is a icon for extensions. And if you click that icon and click on this little 3 dots menu, there is an install from VSIX. And in that install from VSIX, what you merely need to do is go to wherever the extension was downloaded. And in this case, it would be called Rapid-ExtJS-1.0.0. Click on that extension, that .vsix file, and click install. I've already done that, so I don't need to do it again. When it is completed, in the list of installed extensions, you will have Rapid Ext JS version 1. This is a great place to read some further details on what the product is. There again is some context to installing the extension. If you scroll down here, there's a little bit of information on taking existing files and bringing them into Rapid Ext JS. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So this is a good place to at least get further familiar with the product itself. There also are some custom settings that you can set within Visual Studio Code, and all of this is also documented in the documentation so that you have this available to you should you need it. Okay, so that's our discussion about installing Rapid Ext JS and also the details of the extension once it is installed. Let's talk about how you use the product. The first time that you use Rapid Ext JS, if you have not already logged into Rapid Ext JS, and the first time you use it, you'll log in and you'll never have to do this again. But the first time, it's going to ask you for NPM login credentials. And there's one of three types of credentials that you may have. You may not have any credentials, and in that case, you're going to be a trial user. So for a trial user, you'd merely fill out first name, last name, etc., and then submit. And then you will be fully enabled for the 30-day trial of Rapid Ext JS. If you pass the 30-day trial and you become a customer, or you are already a customer, you can set the account type to either Pro, if you have the Pro version, or Enterprise, if you have the Enterprise version. Those two screens will give you a login screen, a username and password. Those are your credentials for the support portal. So you can log in, you can keep that login so that you don't have to do it again. And then once you're past that, then you're ready to go to use the Rapid Ext JS environment. All right, on to the beginnings of the good stuff. You want to create a new Ext JS project with Rapid Ext JS. So in the bottoms of the screen, let me go ahead and close this extensions window. The bottom of the screen, you notice here this new Ext JS button, and that'll bring up that dialog I just showed you that allows you to create an Ext JS application. So you might already have an Ext JS application. So in that particular case, you would probably use the existing application, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new Ext JS application. So I've got another window here that I just had ready to be used, and I'll just resize it so we can see everything. So you need to fill out a few pieces of information. Let's say here we want to name the application My App. There's a default application path that is used by Rapid Ext JS to store the folders that you create. This can be changed here, or you can change it for every default new project in one of the settings for the Rapid Ext JS extension. You can pick which version you want to use of Ext JS, and notice it says XGen version. Remember, we're using the NPM package XGen to actually build this, and 7.8 is what's there by default. I need to select one of the toolkits in Ext JS, either the classic or the modern toolkit. I can optionally pick some of the packages, the Ext JS packages that are available, things like charts, pivot, a calendar, the D3 visualization environment, the Frawala editor that's now available in both classic and modern toolkit. I want to pick an Ext JS theme. I'll just leave it by default as material, but again, it could be any of the themes that are available. And then finally, I have a selection of templates that are specific to the toolkit that I selected. So you can see these are all classic templates. everything from a desktop grid to a dashboard, calendar, etc. And even one that's just a blank template that at least puts the infrastructure in place for you to create your own views. So I'm going to go ahead and click create on that, and I'm going to let this get started. So what's happening now is that Rapid Ext JS is utilizing XGen, the NPM tool, under the covers to generate an application. And once this is finished, it will bring up a new Visual Studio Code instance and bring it up in the context of this created application. So we'll let that generate, and while it's generating, let's talk a little bit about some of the features that are available in Rapid Ext JS. And this list here is just a laundry list of the features that are documented in the Rapid Ext JS guide and are available in the documentation under the extension features guide. So let's look through some of this and just get an idea. Although I'm creating a new project right now, you can open an existing project, and you can open an existing project that is not a Rapid Ext JS project. You can open up a Sencha command-based project or an XGen-based project, and each of those will be generated so that the Rapid Ext JS environment can see and utilize that project. That was the button that was on the left-hand side of that dialog. You can, of course, create a new Ext JS application. That's what we're doing right now. And just by providing the information that's needed and clicking create, it will create that project. There, by the way, is the open existing project button, should you want to take one of your existing projects and bring it into Rapid Ext JS. Once we get into the tool, we will see several of the visual capabilities of Rapid Ext JS, one of which is the Sencha toolbox. So the toolbox is a categorized list of all of the components that are available in Ext JS. So you can see down here, there's a category of buttons, calendar, containers, grid. We will go ahead and exercise those things in a few minutes. That particular toolbox can be moved around on the screen to make maximum use of your screen. Again, I'll demonstrate that in a moment here. The visual environment, which gives you a palette or a view upon which you can drag and drop components, can be zoomed in, so you can kind of see your whole page, even though it might be a scrolling page that you're building. You can also select which screen resolutions you want to use. So if maybe you're building for a tablet or a phone, you want to use one of the screen resolutions that best represents what you're building. There's a component hierarchy pane that will allow you to look at the component hierarchy, and we'll see that as we build the application. There's a package explorer, which allows you to look at all the packages that you're using within the Ext JS application. There's a pane that allows you to interact with the underlying Sencha command watch and build capabilities. So we're using XGen to provide the interface to Sencha command. So under the covers, ultimately, we're using Sencha command, and these buttons will just give you very easy access to the most common things that you would use, like restarting a watch, stopping a watch, running a build, etc. You can use different modes when you're in the user interface. You can be in visual design mode, you can be in pure code mode, you can split your screen to have both up at the same time, and all those are available as buttons within the environment. You can generate brand new views. You can right-click on a folder and generate a complete panel along with its MVC capabilities, the model, the view controller, all of those things will be generated, and you'll get a dialog that tells you exactly what it's going to generate, what the names are going to be. It follows best practices naming standards and saves you a lot of time having to create those from scratch. We'll see that there's some functions to be able to reposition the toolbar. The VS Code extension will work well with the different themes that you use within Visual Studio Code. If you use a dark theme, as I am using, or a light theme, or even a red theme, everything will just integrate seamlessly. And then as we get into things, I'll show you the ability to set properties or configs and events and things along those lines. So that's a pretty good laundry list of the features that are available. So let's go back to our application that we generated, and let me kind of resize this page so it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to put the Visual Studio Code environment on the right-hand side at about 3/4 size, and I'm going to put the Chrome browser on the left-hand side. It's currently running our application, but if you recall, I picked a blank application. So it's running correctly, but there's nothing to show because it's a blank application. You'll also notice that I have files here that represent the files in the generated application. So if I were to go into the app folder, under desktop, under source, under view, main view is the default page for this application. And as you can see, main view is currently blank. So let's go ahead and just really quickly put something on the page just to kind of see the process here. And one of the things I like to be able to do is immediately see my updates as I drag and drop. So I have set the property in Visual Studio Code that says auto save. So if I go down here to the toolbox, notice this toolbox down here on the bottom with the categorized list of components. If I go ahead and drag a button onto the visual palette, the button itself will be, I'm in the wrong application, I'm sorry. So I had previously run an app here. So let me actually go down here to one of the other things I wanted to show you, which is the action commands. Let me restart watch here because right now watch is watching, it's watching my app, and I'm actually on this other project here. So we can use that. It's just as it's the actual same project. So I've just restarted watch, and you can see down here that I have some output that if you've used Sencha command or XGen should look pretty familiar. It's there just for your information. Watch is starting. We have a little dialogue here that tells us that it's doing that. And then eventually the watch will bring up the application here, and we'll be able to utilize that application. As this is running, I did also want to bring up, let's see if I have it here. Maybe this one. Okay, yeah. So before I actually go in and build an application for you, let me show you an application that's already built. And there's quite a bit here. I will simplify this as we go through, but you'll notice this application is not blank. It has several components on it. It has a button up here. It has a grid. If I scroll down here, it has a panel, and this panel has several text boxes. So that's kind of where I want to head. I want to show you how to build that. You'll notice on the bottom here, I have that same toolbox. This toolbox, by the way, can be moved to the right side, to the left side. Just for the purposes of this demo, I wanted to put it on the bottom so that I could also open two of the source code files. The first source code file is this main view, which is the code behind this page. And then because we're using an MVC approach, the view controller, which is what's going to be used for the events that I'm going to handle, is in this other window down here. So this is the way that the application actually is built. So let me go back to this application right here. Let's see if we can rerun this. Should have the watch going now. I'm just waiting for it to start. And let me do what I did in that other page here. Let me open up my project here. I'm going to close the source control. It's kind of confusing right there. And I'm going to open up the main, I could open up the main view, but the main view always is already open. So how do I get the source code to show with this visual designer? Well, you'll notice on the right-hand side here, I have a design view selected. I could select just code view. I could select both code view and design view at the same time with something called split view. So let me do that. That's actually the way I wanted to run here. So what we're looking at right now is the generated app I created, the one button that I dragged here. You can see the button now here on the Visual Studio Code window, and the code for this visual page. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of work to maybe make a change to this page here. So I'm going to go ahead and give me some screen real estate here, and I'm going to click this little checkbox right here. And this checkbox is showing me all of the configs of the button that have been set. And the only one that's been set is the text config. So let me just change that. So I'm going to call it click me, and I'm going to hit enter in a moment here. I want you to watch the code window and the visual design window, because I have autosave on. And what happened is, as I changed the text, it changes in the code, it changes in the visual editor, and the Rapid Ext JS environment auto reloads the Chrome window that this is being used on. So we had that all happen automatically. The other thing I might want to do is I might want to set an event. So for a button, an event that makes a lot of sense is the click event. So let me go ahead and find the click event here. So here it is. And as soon as I click that event, you'll notice a listener was added. And let me bring up the view controller in a like fashion to where I had it in the other example. And I'm going to bring it underneath here. So two things happened when I selected the click event. A listener was added to the view, and an event handler was added to the view controller. So in this particular case, I'm all set up to start doing some coding. So I'll just do something simple. I'll say alert clicked. Oop, and I guess I have to be in there to do that. Alert. I'm trying to do it. There we go. So alert. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Let me bring this over here. It might be pulling the. Not really sure here. I'll just let's see here. I don't know why it's there's something going on where it's not. There we go. I don't know what it was. So we'll go ahead and can finish that and say alert clicked. We'll just say hi. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. So very simple. I just wanted to put a little bit of code in there. So now when the page reloads and I click that event, you can see there that now the event handler is handling that particular click event. Let's take this a little farther. Let's go ahead and add a few other things to this page. So we have a button. Let's go down here to the toolbox and let's go to the grid category. And let's add, by dragging and dropping, a grid. And as you'll notice, it's not just bringing a grid onto the page, but it's also somehow populating that grid with data. And in this case, it's Bart and Lisa from The Simpsons. So what happened there? Well, The grid is a little more of an intelligent control, and it will give you some of the basic infrastructure for a grid just by dragging and dropping. So if we look at the code over here, here's the grid, and you'll notice not only did it bring a next type of grid, but it also gave me a store, gave me some data, and gave me a set of columns. So it's a nice way to get started by just dragging and dropping the grid. Just to make this a little bit cleaner, you notice how it's a little bit tight against the edges here. If I go into the configs and I want to modify a config, I can just look for that config. So in this particular case, I want padding. And if I just type in the padding amount, again, automatically, I'm doing an autosave. The padding was added to the grid and automatically shown with a refresh of that particular component on the Chrome window. Let's add one more object here. This one is going to be under the category of containers. It's going to be a panel. So I put a panel underneath the grid, and you'll see here, again, it's full screen. I'll do that same thing here. I'll select the panel. I'll come over here. I'll look for padding, and I'll make that also 20, just to make it look a little bit nicer. And so there it is. And then I'm going to take this toolbox and move it to the right-hand side. So now I have access to the body of the panel. And in this case, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to add from another category, from the forms category, and I'm going to add a text field. Actually, I'll add 3 text fields because there's 3 fields in that form. There's 3 fields in the row of the data here. And if we look at the code for the grid, we'll notice that the fields have data indexes, the first one being name, the second one being email, and the third one being phone. So I'm going to mimic those things in the properties of the text box. So in this first one here, I'm going to go ahead and say, show me the items that are updated. Well, the first one is name. I could update this to name, but I'm going to add one other property. And that property is the references property, or the reference property, I should say. And I'm going to give that property a name of name. And let me move, no, I'm going to leave that there. Let me move this over a little bit so we can also see the code. This is a little challenging to do on a small screen, but I think you're getting the idea. So the first text box now, I gave it a reference of name. The second text box, we don't want to be name, we want it to be email. So in this particular case, I'm going to go to the change fields, change this to email. Let me also change the name of it to email. And to be consistent, I'm going to go ahead and create a reference. And that reference is going to be email. There we go. That's the second one over here. And then finally, this third one is phone. So let's do that same thing real quick. Let's change the label to phone. Hit enter. Let's change the name to phone. Hit enter. Oops. Got to spell it correctly. P-H-O-N-E. Hit. All right. And hit enter. And so now that one also has the correct name and field label. And then one last thing, I'm going to go ahead and find the reference. And I could just as easily go into the code here and make the changes in the code. There's no reason I can't do both at the same time, but I just want to highlight some of the capabilities within the Rapid Ext JS environment. So in this last one, I'll make this one phone. All right. So I've got my panel with my 3 fields. I've got a grid. What I want to be able to do is click on one of the rows of the grid and then fill in the fields of this form. So if I go back to the grid, if I go down to the event handlers or the event bindings, and in this particular case, I look for select, or I could have searched for it. So I'll bring select in. You'll notice that, again, on the right-hand side here, an event handler for select happened. It named it on grid select, and in the controller, I now have on grid select. So if I go back to my code, or go back to my slide, I've got some code here that I can add to the page here, and I'm just going to grab this really quick so it's easy for us to take a look at this. So this is just going to be event handler code for the on-grid select. So because I created references in EXTJS, I can look up each of the fields by reference, and then I can set values for those fields given the record that I'm selecting. So you can see here as I click, when I click on Lisa, I get Lisa's information. When I click on Bart, I get Bart's information. So I wanted to do a little bit more extensive yet reasonably simple demo example to show you how you interact with the various pieces of the VS Code extension for Rapid Ext JS, and also give you a feeling for how you integrate that visual experience with the coding experience that you're already used to, and utilize one versus the other whenever it makes more sense. Visual to do drag and drop for the components, more textual when you want to write event handlers, but all the plumbing, all the connections, all the things that make all this work are done automatically by the Rapid Ext JS environment. Okay, so with that being said, let me just go back to our slides here and just recap what we talked about here. We were just looking quite a bit at the Rapid Ext JS view editor. So I would totally encourage you to kind of repeat what I did here, or build something more similar to what you might need with the visual environment of the view editor. The documentation for Rapid Ext JS, as we showed before, is available. We looked a little bit at the installation setup and extension features. The documentation for the configs that you might want to use, or the events you might want to use, is the same documentation you have been using for EXTJS. So Rapid Ext JS is a visual tool for the EXTJS environment. So you may use Rapid Ext JS documentation for getting started, what features are there, but you'll still rely on the EXTJS documentation for the guts of the application that you're building. Okay, so with that being said, I think we're about, we got about 15 or so minutes left. I want to go ahead and see if we have any questions about what I built. I will make the slides available after this webinar, and we will also have the recording available, and we can talk about that in a bit. But why don't I go ahead and see if there are any questions, and we'll get into answering some of them.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
My name is Raj. I am a marketing manager at Sencha. Now let's move on to Q&A session. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat and we will address as many we can. Right, let's get started, Mark.
Yep.
Here's the first question we have from the customer panel. What EXTJS versions does Rapid Ext JS support?
Well, Rapid Ext JS supports the latest version of EXTJS, which at the moment is version 7.8, and it will also support any of the other 7X versions. Those are all the supported versions of Sencha Ext JS that are currently available. So it's basically the active versions, all the 7X versions, including the latest version, 7.8. within the environment. Good question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. The next question, can I import an existing XJS project into Rapid Ext JS?
Yes, that was something that I mentioned early on. If you go over to the new EXTJS application window, and let me close this because it's going to be pretty small. So if you go, let me start from scratch here because I have some dependents here. So if I go to a new window, probably be easiest just to do that, and I bring up the new EXTJS app dialog, this left-hand window here, this open existing application, allows me to pick an existing Rapid application if you wanted to bring it in, a Rapid EXTJS application, or an existing XGen application. So if you built using the command line XGen tool, you can bring that into Rapid EXTJS or a Sencha command application. So all three of those are accessible here in the open existing project dialog.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for answering that. The next question, will Rapid be available on VS Code Marketplace?
I did say that it was. I'm pretty sure that it will be. Do we have anyone on the call that can confirm that it will indeed be on the Visual Studio Code Marketplace?
Sure. I think we have invited product manager to this call, right? Sachin,
Great.
are you available?
Yes, Sachin.
Hey, hello. Right now, we are not planning to get this on Marketplace. At the first place, we want to have this provided as a VSIX. That's the current plan. In the upcoming releases, we'll further plan to get this out on the VS Code Marketplace.
Okay. So initially, your two ways of acquiring the product are either through the trial, and as you recall, you can go to the link on the Sencha.com homepage or in the documentation. That trial will download a zip file that you unzip to a VSIX. Or for a support customer, and Sachin certainly confirmed this for me, you will be able to go to the support portal. There'll be a category for the Rapid EXT JS extension, and you'll be able to download it from the support portal. Is that correct?
Yes, Mark, you've mentioned correctly.
Okay, good. All right. So those will be the two current ways you'll be able to acquire it.
Right.
Yes.
Sounds good. The next question is this is regards to licensing and packaging things. What is the difference between Pro Enterprise editions as it applies to Rapid?
So the difference between Pro and Enterprise, the difference from an SDK point of view is some additional capabilities and some additional features that are part of the product itself. So let me see if I can really quickly bring that up. So if you go over to, let's see here. I don't know if it's under free trial, but there is a place where, maybe this is it right here. There we go. If you go over to this pricing link, you'll see here that the Enterprise and Professional editions are listed. So both of them have all of these capabilities up top here. So the framework, Sencha command under the covers, open tooling is actually XGen. So all of those. You will get Architect, the IDE plugins like the Visual Studio Code plugin I mentioned before, Sencha Themer. The Enterprise version will also add Sencha Test, which is our testing tool for EXTJS for unit and functional testing, a developer tool called Inspector, and then several premium components, the D3 adapter for visualizations, pivot grid, exporter, and calendar. How it affects Rapid EXTJS is that we give you two ways to log in, either the Pro version or the Enterprise version. And again, Sachin, I might need your assistance here. I believe Rapid EXTJS is available to Pro users as a trial, but it will only be in the Enterprise edition. Is that true, or am I misspeaking?
Yes, Mark, that is true.
Okay.
Pro users will have an evaluation period of 30 days based on their license, and enterprise users will have a full access to Rapid.
Okay. Okay. So essentially, one additional line will be added here when Rapid Ext JS goes general available, and it will be available. And this is the enterprise edition. So hopefully that answers that question from both angles: what's in the SDK and how it affects Rapid Ext JS.
All right, that's thank you for answering that. Yeah. We have a question here. Does the extension work with V models and data binding?
Does it work with what? Can you just quickly repeat that?
Sure. Does it work with view models and data binding?
View models. Well, you certainly can have view models in your Rapid Ext JS application. If the question is there any sort of visual support for view models? Not in this version 1.0 release. The visual support that you saw is essentially for views, but absolutely you can have view models. And as a matter of fact, the example that I was showing you, I didn't really point it out, but if I bring it up again, the example, make this a little bit bigger here, the example actually has a view model. So it not only had a view, but a view controller and a view model, and that view is connected right here. So the standard generated application will include a view model, but what you do inside that view model, creating your view elements and fields and things like that, that's not a visual. That's something that we'll consider as we move forward with the product. But as I said, most of the visual capabilities you will see are on the view itself.
All right. Thank you. The next question, can I just open project from architect as existing project in Rapid Ext JS, or it needs some migration to be done?
Well, as I said, architect does use metadata. You don't need that metadata within the Rapid Ext JS environment. I don't know if it's as simple. Sachin, I don't know if you have any insight on this, but what would be the process if a customer is using Sencha Architect and then wants to move to using Rapid Ext JS? Is there a conversion that has to happen, or you just open that project? How does that work?
That's a great question, Mark. So right now in Rapid, that capability is not there, but this feature is under our radar. We are working out as this requires a conversion to a normal application currently from Sencha Architect app to a normal CMD or EXTGen based application. And then that can be imported to Rapid Ext JS.
Okay. So if someone does have that issue and they want to move to Rapid Ext JS, that'd be a good thing to maybe contact me on. We can certainly come up with a way to get the code that you've written in Architect into a format that Rapid Ext JS can use. We just don't have an automatic way to do that quite yet, but it certainly is possible. The code that you are writing in Sencha Architect is just as much EXTJS code as the code you're writing in Rapid Ext JS. So, you might have to do something like generate a new Rapid Ext JS project and maybe copy your files over, but you'll still get all of the fidelity of what you built in Sencha Architect. So contact me if you want to get maybe deeper into that.
Great. Thank you for answering that. So we have a follow-up question to that. Is
Sure.
Rapid going to replace Architect tool?
It does seem that way. We certainly are following the spirit of Sencha Architect. We definitely wanted to remove that metadata requirement. But the reality is this is a version 1.0 product. So all of the features, all of the robustness of Sencha Architect is certainly not here yet. So for the foreseeable future, and we have not announced anything other than this, we will continue to enhance and support Sencha Architect alongside Rapid Ext JS. But as I mentioned when I started the presentation, that as we move forward, more and more of the features, I would expect more and more of the features of Architect to become part of Rapid Ext JS. But again, no plans to get rid of Architect anytime soon. So it'll still continue to be there.
All right. The next question, this is with regards to feature release part of 1.0 for Rapid. Are there any limitations that can accept in 1.4 G release?
Are there any limitations in general, or was there a specific? What was the
for 1.4? Are there something they need to aware? Are there any limitations for the first release?
I mean, I pretty much showed you the environment. I mean, the beauty of this is that at the end of the day, you're still in Visual Studio Code and you're still able to edit. So, if there's some limitation where you can't do something visually, there's absolutely no reason that you can't go into split view and do it in the code. So there aren't any limitations. Whatever you can do in EXTJS, you can do here. There may be some things that you say, boy, that'd be nice if that was done visually, and maybe it's not. But there aren't. The Rapid EXTJS environment does not limit what you can do with EXTJS at all.
Got it. All right. So, well, I think we covered this question another way, but again, so in future, will there be any Rapid Ext availability in IntelliJ plugins?
The other environment. So I think the essence of the question is we've introduced plugins, which is our generic term for an extension, for Visual Studio Code, for Eclipse, for IntelliJ. I think the question was kind of alluding to what about those environments for Rapid Ext JS? And again, we have no overt announced plans. We started with Visual Studio Code because of the breadth of it. It's by far the most popular environment. Certainly, it would be something we would look at for the other environments. But to be honest, we want to get this product up and running and going, and begin to enhance it in the Visual Studio Code environment. And then certainly we will look at other environments as well, and especially the ones that we already support plugins for.
That's great. We can take one more question, sir. We're about the time.
Okay.
I mean, you have answered this, Mark. Just maybe we can have a little bit more detail in here.
Sure.
My code is written through Sencha Architect, but got modified manually. So currently we are using older version of XJS. What are the steps involved to move to use Rapid Ext JS?
Okay, I heard a couple things in there. I mean, I heard you're using Architect. You started editing outside of Architect, which by definition means you can't go back to Architect because the metadata is all screwed up. But then I also heard an older version of EXTJS, which I'm assuming means a version pre-version 7. If that's the case, we have tools. In particular, we have a tool called the Upgrade Advisor that can take your 4X and above EXTJS application and analyze it to figure out, okay, what needs to change, what's been deprecated, and in some cases, it can actually make the changes, it being the Upgrade Advisor tool, to get you up to a version 7, and why not go all the way to 7.8? Once you have a 7.8 version of your application, there may have to be some work because you may not have used, well, if you were using Architect, you were using Sencha Command, but any Sencha Command application, if it's running just with Sencha Command, can be upgraded in Rapid Ext JS. So yes, there would be a path. There's probably a couple steps to that path, especially if I was correct that you're on an older version. But you ultimately can be building your applications in this new tool.
Awesome. All right, we just in time, so that wraps up our presentation for today.
Great, great. Well, I really appreciate everybody sticking around. And as I said, if you do have any follow-on questions or want to dive deeper in anything, make note of my email address and get a hold of me. We will make this recording available soon, I'm assuming. And you'd be able to review this. And we look forward to getting the GA product out very soon.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us and for your time. We hope you found it valuable and informative.
Thank you, everybody.